Hello, everyone. We are getting our speakers all set up. Thank you so much for joining us today for the first of our three-part Shaping Futures series between Community Solutions and AWHWA Washington. Today's event is going to explore the Washington State Landscape Report on Unaccompanied Youth and Young Adult Homelessness. It was recently published by AWHWA Washington and the Office of Homeless Youth. I'm Katie Stasa, the Senior Digital Media Strategist at Community Solutions. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm based in DC. I will be moderating this event, and I'd like to pass it over to our guests for some quick introductions. Elisha, let's start with you.
Hi all, my name is Elisha Prichett. I use she and her pronouns, and I'm the Data and Evaluation Director at AWHWA Washington, based in Walla Walla, Washington. Pass it to Kim.
Hello, I'm Kim Justice. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Office of Homeless Youth, which is located within Washington State's Department of Commerce. And I live in Olympia, Washington.
Thanks so much, Kim. All right, since we only have 30 minutes, let's dive right into questions. The first one is for you, Elisha. Could you start by sharing some key findings from the landscape report on youth and young adult homelessness and what progress has been made since the last report was published in 2016?
Sure. So I have a couple of graphs here to show to visually aid us in talking through some of the data.
Yes. Let me pull those up for you. I am so sorry. This computer is running quite slow today.
No problem.
All right. Adding it to the stream now.
Great, thank you so much. So yes, as you can see here, one of the key findings in this report is the clear racial disproportionality of young people of color in the homelessness system. So while 62% of the state's population of 10 to 24-year-olds are white and 38% are BIPOC, when we look at those who are accessing the homelessness system, only 43% were white, while we see 57% were BIPOC, so Black, Indigenous, and young people of color. And as you can see here, Black or African American youth and young adults experience the greatest disproportionality, making up only 4% of Washington's youth and young adult population, but they're represented here in the homelessness system at 19%. I'm going to go to the next slide. We also determined that there was a 40% reduction in overall unaccompanied youth and young adults experiencing homelessness from 2016 to 2022. And Washington is a leader in homelessness data with its integrated data sets that have the ability to make connections across multiple systems that did not exist back in 2016. And some feedback from communities and young people is that this decrease isn't fully representative of their experiences, indicating to us that there is still yet work to be done. Though I do want us to celebrate and elevate the progress that we have seen, because another key finding in this report was that of the unaccompanied young people housed in 2020, 75% have retained their housing after 2 years. So thank you for sharing those. There has been tremendous progress in Washington State. So I do just want to highlight a few contributing factors. The first being community-driven initiatives. One I'd like to highlight is the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Project, which is a federal program that really exemplifies cross-system collaboration and leadership by young people with lived experience. And I also want to highlight the Anchor Community Initiative, also known as ACI, which is a statewide initiative to end youth and young adult homelessness that is really grounded in youth leadership, collaboration, and using real-time data for equitable outcomes. And we've also seen some incredibly creative and innovative housing solutions in spite of the housing crisis that have been responsive to the needs of young people, such as the Homelessness Prevention and Diversion Fund, which is flexible diversion funds that go directly to young people to prevent them from experiencing homelessness, as well as host homes and supportive leasing, just to name a few.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Elisha. Kim, would you like me to keep these slides up for you as well?
You can if you want, either way.
Okay, great. So the question that I have for you is, from your perspective at the Office of Homeless Youth, what are some of the most significant milestones that Washington has achieved in addressing youth homelessness over these past few years?
Yeah, I want to highlight 3 milestones that I think have been key in the progress that's been made that Elisha just spoke to, while also underscoring that there is so much left to do, especially to eradicate the racial disproportionality that we see in the homelessness system. But in terms of progress, first and foremost, this is really about people who have come together to make ending youth and young adult homelessness a priority. So really, if I could say anything, it's more than any policy or singular program. It's really the people that are the heart of this movement. I think that's really important to understand, and to understand that the folks who have really led this movement and have led youth homelessness to the visibility that has gotten is really from young people themselves who've made this a priority, have communicated solutions. And in direct response in our state, Governor Inslee and the legislature created this Office of Homeless Youth in state government to be solely focused on addressing this issue. We also have incredible partners in philanthropy who invested in creating Away Home Washington to be a community-based effort and initiative. We have fierce advocacy organizations in this state. And again, most importantly, young people who are leading the way and shaping the solutions. So it's really this collective, collaborative approach that really underpins all of the work. Secondly, I would note that there has been sustained and targeted investments year after year in our state. So we've seen that sustained focus and year-over-year growth in the investment in housing and services to support young people. And just to kind of illuminate that, the budget for housing and services for young people across the state grew tenfold, from $10 million to almost $100 million over the last 8 years. And that's money going directly in communities to support young people. So in 2016, the landscape was a little bit bleak. Less than half of the counties had any housing or shelter for young people. Today, more than 3/4 of counties have housing or shelter, and all but 2 counties have some type of service to offer young people. And then third, our focus on prevention, really moving beyond a system that only responds to a crisis to moving upstream to prevent homelessness from ever occurring in the first place, and just making prevention a priority in the work that we're all doing.
That is great. Thank you, Kim. That really helps to put into perspective how much work went into making that 40% reduction. That is huge. And it's great to see that you all are also working on upstream prevention to stop it before it even happens. The next question, after I stop sharing my screen, I am going to pass it over to Elisha. I'm curious to know how by name data has impacted the efforts to address youth homelessness in Washington, and what challenges still remain in data collection and utilization.
This is my favorite subject. So 10 counties in Washington state, which is more than a quarter, currently have real-time quality by name lists that allow them to track in real time how many unaccompanied youth and young adults are experiencing homelessness or housing instability in their community. So they are tracking inflow, they're tracking outflow, actively homeless, and demographics on a monthly basis. And so these anchor communities are committed to reaching a shared definition of functionally ending youth and young adult homelessness, which is to say that homelessness is rare, it's brief, it's one time. Their community has the capacity to house young people as they're identified, and most importantly, includes ending racial and LGBTQIA2 spirit plus disproportionality. So communities track their data in their local homeless management information system, also known as HMIS, and through custom data tools and dashboards, they're then able to visualize their data over time. And they have that ability to see at a system level what's actually happening in their community. And so Away Home Washington coaches communities on how to use this real-time by name list data to drive action, design solutions to improve their overall homelessness system, and then monitor and evaluate their progress over time along the way. So not only can they see like a bird's eye view of their homeless response system, they also have the ability to like drill down into specific parts of their system and then target their efforts for improvement, including identifying where those disparities exist in their system. So really, the power of real-time data is that they can see the impact of their efforts in real time and pivot when needed, because we don't have any time to waste. And then ultimately, a by name list is really just a tool to use in real time to identify and house young people as quickly as possible and according to their unique needs. So by its very nature, it requires kind of a whole community approach to solving homelessness and not just managing it. And we've seen communities really show up and lean into that energy. There are some challenges, though. So while Washington has some of the most sophisticated data systems in the nation, still most counties aren't using real-time data to improve their homeless response system, and or don't share kind of an inclusive definition of homelessness, meaning that they don't include young people who are unstably housed or doubled up or couch surfing, which we know this type of homelessness in this population really experience that kind of invisibly, right? And the reality is that it does take capacity to build and maintain a real-time by name list. And because it's not mandated by federal or state government, communities don't receive funding to implement one, and then often don't have the technical skills necessary to build the custom data tools that are required to transform that HMIS data into a by name list. So those are kind of the main challenges. Also with data collection, right? It really requires kind of a concerted and coordinated approach with communities. So really focusing their outreach efforts to make sure that they're accounting for every young person that is in their county right now. And then it also means maintaining quality data practices. And then specifically, we see that sexual orientation data is not a required field in HMIS, which often leads to poor data quality. So it's really impossible to design solutions and strategies around LGBTQ plus disparities when we can't see accurate counting of how these young people are experiencing the homelessness system and where to begin.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Elisha. That was a very thorough answer, but it really dug into the importance of why data is necessary in solving homelessness. So you kind of answered my next question, where I did talk about some of those disparities that you see with BIPOC youth. So is there anything else that you want to add for that, or shall we move on to the partnerships piece of this all?
I do just want to highlight some efforts that are being made to address kind of the disparities that we're seeing in the homelessness system, specifically calling out the voices of the young people that were involved in the landscape scan report. They so generously offered their insights and their experiences. And so they had mentioned, you know, by and for organizations that really have BIPOC and LGBTQ plus led programming and resources have really made the difference. And there's definitely a need for more. As mentioned, communities are really targeting strategies to address this proportionality. And I want to highlight the HPDF, or Homelessness Prevention and Diversion Fund, once again, because it has been a key intervention that we've seen success with due to its flexibility. So in our most recent report from 2022 to 2023, about 60% of young people who were served by that fund were BIPOC.
Excellent. Thank you. So the next question that I have is for Kim. Kim, how have public-private partnerships played a role in funding and supporting these innovative approaches?
Yeah, the relationship between the public sector and the private sector, in particular philanthropy, has been immensely important, I would say. And again, I'd say we're lucky in Washington State to have so many committed and focused philanthropy partners working to address youth homelessness. And so, you know, some of the key ways that has helped is, you know, when you're trying something new, there are unknowns, there are risks that you take that aren't always risks that the public sector and government want to take. And so it's that's where philanthropy can come in and invest dollars to try things and to innovate. We've had that has happened. There are numerous examples of different programmatic approaches and innovations, and even just funding collaboration and infrastructure and capacity, where philanthropy has come in as kind of that first investor to help seed those initiatives. And we've, you know, been able to learn a lot and adjust, and then have garnered support from the state because of that. And we've seen things grow from very small, innovation opportunities to large, trying to scale up some really large innovations that we're seeing a lot of success with. So again, I think that, having philanthropy as that partner and that willing investor in some of these early stage efforts has been really critical. And again, it's also important to invest in the collaborative spaces. I know it's not maybe as interesting to, as of a thing to invest in, but we have to have the ability to have capacity and infrastructure to do this work together. And so that's another way that philanthropy has played a really vital role in the work.
Yeah, thank you for kind of pulling us behind the curtain there. I'm always interested, find out how these collaborations work with funders and philanthropy. So thank you. Now I'm actually going to switch over to talking about some challenges and recommendations, because I feel like we can learn a lot by digging into the current challenges that sometimes we're still facing in our work. So Elisha, despite all the progress that we've seen Washington State have on reducing youth and young adult homelessness, what are some ongoing challenges that communities face in preventing and ending youth homelessness?
Yeah, so once again, really calling in the voices of the young people and providers who were interviewed for this landscape scan report. The two most mentioned barriers and ongoing challenges young people and providers cited were the housing crisis and the mental health crisis, right? And these challenges are not unique to Washington State. These are challenges that communities are facing nationally. But specifically for youth and young adults around the housing crisis, we've seen that there's a lack of affordable housing and age-appropriate shelter, right? So we do see a deficit in shelter options specifically for young people under 18, as well as young adults, right? Often mixed in either in singles-only adult shelter or families. Also with the mental health crisis, we see a lack of culturally appropriate mental health care and really a lack of housing options for those who struggle with substance use and those with high mental health needs. So kind of those are the main two, but wanted to call in again, young people said that there really is limited youth and young adult led resources. We've made some progress in that arena, but really the call in for more, right? And specifically for BIPOC, LGBTQIA2 Spirit Plus, pregnant and parenting youth and young adults, and minors. There are very limited resources for minors in the state. There's progress that's being made, but really the work is yet to be done.
Thank you. So I love that you've been bringing in, the voices of the people impacted by youth and young adult homelessness. So I do want to learn a little bit more about that, because the report emphasizes the importance of that youth leadership and involvement. So how have they been actively engaged in shaping the strategies and solutions?
Sure, yeah. So I can talk a little bit about the Anchor Community Initiative first. So communities really center youth and young adult expertise and leadership and engage them directly through what we call youth action boards to inform local change efforts. So Away Home Washington provides funding for local community capacity that's dedicated to supporting these YABs with engagement, and then also engagement with local buy-in for organizations. So we provide coaching support for those communities to reach what we call the ACI gold standard of youth engagement, as well as stipends to support young people and really use their ideas and take them to action, right? Not just have them share, but do something with them. Also at a state level, we see leaders such as the Mockingbird Society, where young leaders with lived experience are supported to become powerful self-advocates and to really push to find solutions and advocate for changes at the legislature. But specifically for the landscape scan report, young people were also deeply, deeply involved. So the research was co-designed and facilitated with a young adult with lived experience, as well as reviewed and edited by lived experts. So their thoughts, their opinions, and expertise really provided the powerful insights into not only why we see disproportionality in the youth and young adult homelessness data, but also their informed recommendations on how to prevent and end unaccompanied youth and young adult homelessness moving forward. And it's stacked with so many recommendations that I'm hoping we as leaders in the state can take forward.
Awesome. Thank you. And Kim, I'd love to ask you the same question and get your perspective on it.
Yeah, absolutely. At the Office of Homeless Youth, we recognize the impact and the power we have to direct millions of dollars in resources and make policy and practice decisions that have such huge and far-reaching impacts on young people. And at the core value in our office is to center young people in that work. And that means that, we strive to include young people in every decision we make, every program we design, every policy we develop, and every funding decision we make. That doesn't happen overnight. Our work in youth engagement has evolved over time. And I think part of what has helped to strengthen and grow that work is that we have a dedicated staffing position to youth engagement. As a team, we all are invested in and embrace that core value of centering young people. As Elisha said, compensation is important. We compensate young people for their time. We also cover, transportation and lodging costs and childcare, and make the opportunities accessible for young people to actually participate. So we do have young people who regularly help not only evaluate proposals for funding, but also shape the application. So what questions we're asking, how we score and how we rank applications for our funding. We have supported a youth action board, statewide youth action board called the AWHWA board, and have engaged young people in many aspects of our work, and also have a goal to not only engage young people in the work we're doing, but also to support their own professional growth. And one of the cool things that we've seen is many young people who have been employed on our team who were hired directly from the AWHWA board or another youth action board, and other youth action board members hired by national and state partnership organizations. So I do think as a broader community of folks working in this space in Washington, we really do embrace that value of centering young people and are always working to improve that and do more of that.
Awesome. Thank you. And as we're getting to the end of our prepared questions, I just want to remind our audience that we will have a few minutes at the very end to take some audience questions. So please drop them in. And Kim, I would love to hear, your future vision. So how can community members and other stakeholders get involved in supporting the efforts to end youth homelessness?
Yeah, the message around this, and there may be a lot of folks tuning in from Washington State. There may be folks in other states, and I would just say, I would underscore how important it is to make it a priority. Make ending youth and young adult homelessness a priority. And I don't know if y'all noticed, but it's an election year, and not just on the national front, but there are a lot of very important local elections this year. And that's an awesome opportunity to talk to people about this issue and ask candidates where they stand, what they would plan to do to address youth and young adult homelessness. Talk to your local elected leaders, those with influence in your community. Ask decision makers what they're going to do. This is how we elevate issues and how we can ensure that this issue is a priority. So think about your own sphere of influence, your network of people, your own power that you have, and how you can use that and leverage that to make this issue a priority. Other things you can do are talk to friends and neighbors to help dispel myths about youth homelessness and why young people are experiencing homelessness. Young people do not choose to be homeless. They become homeless because home is not safe, it's not supportive, or it simply doesn't exist. And, as I said in the beginning, it really has been young people who have led the charge here in Washington State. So find the ways to engage young people in the work that you do. How can you involve young people? How can you elevate them? In many ways, it's up to those of us who are leaders and decision makers to make that space and then to listen and take action accordingly.
Thank you so much. Those are some great words of inspiration to leave us all with. But since we haven't gotten any questions from the audience yet, I'd love to ask both of you, what is one thing that you want anyone who's attending this or watching a recording of it to take away from this session? Who wants to go first?
feel like we should flip a coin for it. Well, I guess, there's a lot. So it's, I think I'm just going to be reiterating a theme we've been talking about, which is to center youth and really ensure that this work and this movement is youth led. I think if we do that, we can't go wrong. If young people have their power, to have the agency over their own direction in life and trajectory, I think that is kind of at the core of addressing this issue.
Awesome. All right. So we actually also got a question from the chat. And Kim, I believe it's for you. So how is Washington leveraging the shift toward direct cash transfers as solutions to homelessness and housing instability?
Yeah, thank you for asking that one. Well, this is a great example of responding to what young people ask for. And when young people, not only in Washington state, but across the country, when they're asked, what do you need? What would it have taken, or what would it take to resolve your homelessness? Often it comes down to money, cash, money, resources to address a need, resolve a crisis, ensure stability. And so we are responding directly to that by proposing. We have a kind of an internal state government process to move proposals forward, but we are actively designing a direct cash transfer program for youth. And direct cash transfers are a mechanism to put cash directly in the hands of young people so that they can maintain stability, afford housing, be able to meet their own needs, that money is predictable and guaranteed. They can plan for it, they can budget for it. And there have been, there are examples across the country, various pilot programs for youth direct cash transfer programs that are showing just how powerful of an intervention that is, not only in seeing outcomes associated with housing stability, but also other outcomes that are also very important, like mental well-being, health and wellness, and just stability really in all realms of a person's life. And so we're working to try to advance that in Washington state and hopefully implement a pilot program here.
Awesome. Thank you. The next question I have for Elisha. Are you paying youth as contracted workers and helping them navigate 1099s and paying taxes, or hiring them as employees?
So I think there is a mix in communities for kind of YAB work and then other opportunities for kind of input and engagement. Young people are provided stipends, but we've also hired young people with lived experience onto the team. I do think this is a great question because I think it's really important to elevate what young people said in the report, which is stipends are great, engagement's great, but also they want to develop professionally in their career long term. And so really creating those positions that are full-time, that are paid well, so that way they can make a living wage and have their work beyond just being a lived expert, but a lived expert who wants to grow professionally. And so I think as many opportunities as we can create and think about when we are posting positions, we're thinking about what requirements and expertise we are kind of elevating and kind of valuing. Think about that, because young people are brilliant and they can be brilliant as a full-time employee as well.
Thank you, Elisha. We have gotten so many great questions, but I don't want us to run out of time. So if we didn't get to your question and you still want it answered by Elisha and Kim, you can email me at comms@community.solution. That's COMMS @community.solutions. Additionally, we're going to flash a QR code up on the screen. It has a ton of resources. It links to the youth and young adult report that we were discussing today. I feel like we got so many great insights in just 30 minutes. I'm so thankful to both Elisha and Kim for being here, and everyone who took time out of their day to listen. This recording will be on YouTube and a few other places, so look out for it. Thank you all so much.
Thanks all.
Thank you.